Hi everyone, my name is Emily and a lot of you may have come across my profiles on TikTok and on YouTube because of my knitwear that I do, which tends to be vintage patterns that I've sized up, and I thought it might be nice for me to share my other garments that I've made in the past and how my knitting has evolved over time. But before I do that, you may have noticed I have refreshed my hair to a nice green colour, but I've also done my hands. So I do look like I am a low budget version of Elphaba from Wicked at the moment. So, but I have checked and it's not going to transfer, so hopefully none of my knitwear is going to turn green. So yes, so I am now going to show you what I've made. So my first ever piece of vintage knitwear is this top that I knitted in the merino wool. It's from a book called Knit Vintage. I will leave in the comments below or in the bio or whatever, the description, even in the description I'll leave like a list of where I got my patterns from and whether they're available or not online for free or if you need to pay for them. But yeah, this is my first top that I made. I need to change the buttons because this is what I had in my stash at the time, but that can be easily done, and I might even add a few more going down the front. But yes, this was my first ever vintage knitwear. So this is my second item that I made. This is the first time I actually knitted in the round. I really wanted a bardo style, you know, like sort of off the shoulder top, and I came across this pattern on Drops. I knitted it in, I think it's an Aran, right? Yeah, an Aran weight wool. Well, it's not. It's like a metallic yarn I actually got from a special buy in Aldi. So yeah, so it was meant to have a few more extra rows at the top, but I was playing yarn chicken, so it's a bit shorter. But yes, this is a free pattern available on Drop, so I'll find the link for this and add it to the description below for you. And then I was going to a wedding a few years ago and I needed something to cover up my shoulders, so I found this lovely lacy knit pattern which was free from Ravelry. And it's just a simple rectangle. I mean, I had to size it up so it could fit across my back, and also I wanted the sleeves slightly longer. But yes, this was my shrug that I made for a wedding. And I think it might be, I don't think it's cotton, I can't remember. I do get a lot of my yarn second hand from charity shops and sometimes the labels are missing. So I can't remember, it's not acrylic and it's not, you know, a sheep's wool, but it's a lovely thing to wear during summer on my summer dresses. Right, my cat wants to get involved and I'm trying not to trip over her. She likes to attack my feet when I'm wearing my slippers. Don't attack me. Ooh. She is called Edith and she is a pest. Yeah. Right. So this is the second jumper that I knitted from the Knit Vintage book. This is before I took tension and gauge seriously. Because it's not meant to have cuffs like this. I did not use a small needle size as stated. I just carried on using the same needle all throughout and then ended up with very long sleeves, which I now have to roll back instead. So yeah, I really like this one because it has the way you do the stitches on one of the rows. You sort of have to pick up the stitches and knit them, and it creates this lovely bow effect, and it's repeated on the back as well. But again, the full instructions are in the Knit Vintage book. So this is the first vintage pattern I actually sized up, which was really easy to do because it's just literally 2 squares. So it was easy to size up, you know, add extra stitches on either end and make sure that the pattern was consistent throughout. So it was, you know, quite a good beginner friendly way of doing it. It's Aran weight cotton, so it was lovely. I actually was knitting this on holiday last year in Greece, and I finished it I think 2 days before we were meant to fly home. So I wore it on our wedding anniversary out with some nice long flowy wraparound trousers. With a lot of my vintage knitwear, I do tend to wear them tucked into, so I wear like high-waisted trousers and tuck them into just to show off like my little waist, well, whatever's left of my little waist since having children. So yes, this is my first sized up vintage knit. So this jumper that I'm wearing is actually a free pattern on subversivefemme.com. I think she's called Bex Hullens or Hulens. she lives in Australia, and she has this website where she sells patterns, but she also has a lot that's available for free, including a curvy, so anything that's 38 inches and above, she has those for free as well. And this is one of the patterns. So I think this is originally from the 1960s, but they did do a smaller sleeve, like a shorter sleeve version from the 1940s. So I've knitted this in alpaca, so it's lovely. It's really soft, and it has quite a fluffy texture. And I had these buttons in my stash, and I originally sewed them on. I asked my nearly 5-year-old's opinion on it, and she went, they look a bit wobblish, mummy. So I had to undo them all and put them back on, and then it met her standards. So yes, so this is, I haven't sized this one up, so this is actually 38 inch, but my knitting tension tends to be quite loose, so I was hoping it would stretch enough to fit, and I think it does. But I quite like the rib and how it sort of goes up towards the centre, and I think it's quite flattering. But yes, I do like the fit. Now this is the top that got a lot of attention on TikTok and on YouTube, and this is the second project that I actually sized up. So it was originally, I think, a 34 to 36 inch bust, and I have a 43 inch bust. So definitely testing my mathematics skills, which are sometimes not existent at all. When I first knitted this and knitted the back and I measured it, it was originally going to fit a 50 inch bust. So I was like, so I had to undo the whole thing, check my maths again. Don't you dare jump up there. No. And she's about to jump on the windowsill, and I got a whole load of plants and knickknacks, and she's going to knock them off. So, as cats do. So yes, so it's going to be way too big. Unravelled it, checked my maths again, knitted it up, and thankfully this time it fitted. It's hard because sometimes when you do size things up, you also have to take in the the armpit area. There is a technical term, but I've forgotten what it is. But also then it's making sure the sleeve is wide enough, but also meets, it matches up to the extra. So yes, you have to make sure it's it fits within that increased length, and also you don't want it to be too big. So these are in the 1940s, slightly puffy sleeves were in, so I've had to put shoulder pads in to help them, give them a bit of support. So it's not perfect, but for a first attempt at sizing up a jumper that's not just a square, I think I've done quite well, really, and I am pleased with it. And I really like that I had these buttons to match with the embroidery. So all of it, all the materials are second hand. They're not bought from new. It's what I found in charity shops or been gifted to me. But yeah, I do really like it. I even tried to match up the embroidery to how it was in the picture as well, to make it feel more like, I don't know, more of the time. But yes, I'm really, really pleased with it as my first attempt at as a fitted jumper. And then last but not least, this is my latest project that I finished recently. When I've put it up on TikTok, it was extremely popular. I think it's had now over 20,000 views, which is amazing, that I wasn't expecting at all. Like when I first started sharing my knitting, it was just practically just to share what I made, not necessarily to get lots of views or followers. But it's really nice to see that what I've made, that brings me joy, seems to bring joy to other people. So that's really lovely to see. So this one was quite challenging. Again, it was I think a 34 to 36 inch bust, again sized up to 43. It's lamb's wool that I got from yarnoncone.co.uk, where they sell just all their yarn is on cones, so you get quite a lot for your money. And again, I had to size this up. I didn't, because of the way the embroidery is, it does affect the stretch a little bit, because it's sort of on the bias, how it goes up. So I was hoping and praying it was going to fit, and thankfully it does. I just had an issue with the sleeves. So the sleeves were just way too, they were just flapping. and at that point I'd already done the embroidery, you know, because you're meant to embroider it before you sew it on. So I had a little bit of a pout because I am one of those perfectionist people. And then I was looking at it, I thought, what if I do like a pleat, because it's got this little, you know, with the shoulder, creates like a little boxy shape. I thought, could I do something like invert it basically to, you know, to sort of correspond, and also to try and match up the pattern. So pleated it, and it just makes it fit so much better. And I think it just adds, you know, something to the structure of the sleeve. There's a bit more interest. And again, I did little shoulder pads as well. I think what I need to start doing is, I feel like it sits a bit too low on the shoulder. I feel like the shoulder seam needs to be up here a bit more. So that's my next thing I'm going to sort of improve upon, teach myself, is how to try and not only size it up to fit my waist and my bust, but also try and decrease it a bit to do that. And I think I'll have to do that here at the, you know, when you decrease for the, you know, the armpit before you start doing this bit, might experiment with decreasing a few more stitches just to try and get the shoulder seam looking a bit more where it should be, if that makes sense. But yeah, so this took flipping ages. I can't even remember when I started it. It was before last autumn, because I've been just knitting, because it's moss stitch or seed stitch throughout on, I think it's 3.25mm needles, so small needles, you know, some thin yarn, and you know, like a stitch, like knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one all the way throughout, and then the embroidery, counting it out where it's meant to go, you know, make sure it's even spaces, because it's darned through the purl stitches, and it was quite therapeutic to do. But also an hour go past and you've literally just done maybe 4 lines. You're just like, oh, when is this going to end? But yes, so I'm really pleased with this one as well, and yeah, just give me ideas to how to improve fit next time. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed me sharing my, you know, my makes, and hopefully see, you know, a little bit of my style, what I'm into, and also hopefully it shows how my knitting's evolved over time, because I've been knitting since, I think properly, when I say properly, I think like actually following the pattern and making something that would fit me since about 19, 20, but then it was a simple stocking stitch, garter stitch, and also I was a lot slimmer back then, so it was easier to find stuff that will fit me. I would never back then dreamed of, you know, resizing the pattern, you know, to fit my own proportions. You know, that would never have entered my thought process whatsoever. So it's interesting to see over the last 50, you know, like over 15 years of knitting, how it's changed, like my taste, my confidence, and what, you know, what I want to get my teeth into, you know, what I want to just challenge myself on. So yes, thank you so much for, you know, your time watching this, and hopefully I will share lots more lovely projects with you. Thank you, bye, and hopefully my green hands will go.